It's Adobe Acrobat Studio.
Oh, bless you.
No, Jenny, Adobe Acrobat AI Assistant.
The Audio Acrobat Studio lets you group multiple documents and uses an AI assistant to help provide a summary of the key insights in seconds.
Whoa, what's that?
I just built a budgeting app in Base 44.
Guys, Nina just built an app.
Impossible.
Come on, bring it! How are you? Can you please explain it? No matter who you are, you just cannot fake it. Living on the edge of reality. If you mess with my friends, you gonna mess with me. Destroy my home, you invade this land. Listen real close, you understand. Tougher than leather, we in this together. You're never gonna win, you never forever. We got the pace and we see what you got now. Give me one shot, I'm in it, my foul. The time for the fake, only real ones allowed. Stand in my way, watch me take through the crowd. Left, right, left, right, left, right, down. Left, right, left, right, left, right, down. You got another thing coming if you think I'm
Feel the fury that from our rage. It holds me back every day. It's such a no relief. But I feel the fury. So we one more stake and a change is not a make. There's a way. You feel the fury that can tell me that's nothing from seeing the way. But I won't hold back now. Can you feel the fury? So it's just let me the way that I cannot their names.
you wanted, some things in life you just can't flaunt. I see through. No need for the front. You need a mask. That's only assumption. But you keep hard, but it's what you need. Stay steady on your ground. Let your actions see. No time for the fake. I'm too busy staying true. Keep it real. 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 Take a long, let's go.
Me when I realized that Feel for Fury is an anime opening by the Oral Cigarettes. Sorry about the ads having their audio. That was unintentional. See, this is the problem with using music from YouTube via your laptop. Look, I'm just saying, I love my Chromebook. So, you know. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about, including a recent video. Hang on. Including a recent video from British Stand with even public television calling out Starmer and the like. Honestly, if you're part of the Labour Party, that party's now a terrorist organization as far as I'm concerned. And just like Hamas, all you creeps need to be shipped off to Guantanamo. As far as I'm concerned, you're all too violent. You're all too violent. Anyway, let's not even talk about the fact that politicians are stupid enough to think about VPN bans. Like, that will put an end to the remake of Sonic.exe for Disaster. You know, Sonic.exe for Disaster 2D remake. Which is why I was having trouble finding any way to play the game.
If you're pregnant, you can help protect your baby from RSV
Wait,
and
what? Hang on.
or serious illness. Being back.
There we go. Anyway. Yeah. So that happened. But, where was I? Oh, yeah. Sonic.exe for Disaster could end up being gone again because IP issues and not having a VPN to make sure you can play with other people. See, it's not just skirting around stupid surveillance laws for going onto adult websites if you are of age. Though, I'm sure some of you watching this who are of age want to go onto browsers. I may have accidentally clicked on a link a couple of times, but yeah, not my thing. I will admit. Anyway, this is getting ridiculous. Oh shit, is this Lullaby for a Princess? This is a good song.
Fate has been cruel and order unkind. How can I have sent you away? The blame was my own, the punishment yours. The harmony silenced today. But into the stillness I'll bring you a song, and I will your company keep. To your tired eyes and my lullabies, I've carried you softly to sleep.
we need to get to the spicy stuff. Anyway, we might as well get the political stuff out of the way first.
And hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Could we be seeing something pretty interesting here with regard to this sort of establishment plans, so to speak? Now, Sky...
Okay, first of all, apologies for interrupting. And second of all, yes. See, this is why, though I cannot actually vote because apparently social services won't allow me to vote even though I am of legal age to vote. If we are also going off of past context, I would have, if prior to all this craziness, they'd allowed 16-year-olds to vote in the UK beforehand, but thankfully they did not. And honestly, especially with that weird party known as the Green Party owned by Zach Polanski, look, let's just say I support reform because at least they're not a Hassan Piker sympathizer, okay? And if you like your dogs, and if you live in the countryside, and you don't want dogs banned from being allowed there, because terrorists don't like dogs, to the point that they'd rather have them killed, may I add. See, no regular Muslim would do that. Islamists, as far as I'm concerned, they aren't Muslim. They're just terrorists. Then, yeah, I suggest following reform and sticking to reform at this point. As for America, clearly it's a simple. Clearly, the European Union thinks that the civilians of any country are subordinates that need correction. And while we can argue with the President of the United States, I don't think that's a good idea at all. And as communist countries such as Russia and China are closing in, I don't know, man. I don't know. Perhaps keeping NATO might be a very good idea, though silencing free speech on either side is pretty bad. You know what I mean?
News, as you know, for a very long time are part of the mainstream media. They are, of course, on the side of the establishment, like BBC, have a very sort of left-wing bias. However, there's one in particular news host that calls it out time and time again with sort of Tommy Robinson marches, said he stood up for them and said the people that were on that march.
Now, to be clear, this is to do with the British Sky News, not Sky News Australia, because honestly, I feel like Sky News Australia is pretty conservative, or at least central, or at least centered. You know, I cannot speak today. Also, sorry for the lack of a PNG tuber model. I had to reinstall Prism onto my tablet. Anyway.
Weren't racist, and they had great concerns of their country, despite the mainstream media consensus pushing the other way. Now, with regard to this Peter Mandelson thing, he says it clear. Now, he comes out and speaks about Labour MPs essentially distancing themselves, trying to save their own skin in the aftermath of this stuff with Peter Mandelson. All we've heard for days now, despite a lot of them coming out saying that he was a great guy, I say, oh, well, we didn't really know him. We're like, trying to save their own skin. David Lammy, Wes Streeting, Steve Reed, all of these kind of people, Keir Starmer, and just showing their levels.
I hate that guy, by the way. I hate Starmer. I think everyone hates Starmer in the UK. And do you know who else we also hate? The leader of the Chinese Communist Party. So, for all I care, Starmer can live his life as a Temu slave. That's right, I said it. Suffer, kid! Suffer! Anyway.
Which they will go to hold no accountability for the decisions that they made previously and to distance themselves just to save their own political career. Now, I find it interesting listening to Trevor Phillips, and we are going to be listening to him here as he calls it out, and rightfully so. But guys, before we get into today's video, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more. So this is Trevor Phillips this morning talking about this. And we're going to get into another podcast segment of him talking about it as well. And I'll give you an example of what we mean here.
Now then, it's time to talk once more about the big story of the week. Fast-moving events following the release of the latest Epstein files.
Peter Mandelson has once again found himself in the spotlight. Police have now searched 2 of his properties as part of a criminal investigation.
Well, this morning we've heard from Gordon Brown as well, who had some pretty choice words to say about his former cabinet colleague. Let's take a listen.
It was a complete betrayal of his colleagues and of the job that he was carrying out. And of course, it was a betrayal of the country. Now, I do think there are measures we can take to prevent this happening in future. And I would like to talk about them. There's been a systems failure and we've got to rectify it. And I think it can be done. But look, this is information that was 15 years old that is now becoming available to us. And it's remarkable that our checks and balances in the system have not found out about this before now.
Well, let's cross to Westminster and catch up with Trevor ahead of his show tomorrow. Morning, Trevor. Good to see you as ever. I mean, what a political week. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's grim, isn't it? I mean, normally I come on and do a comedy turn this morning, but it's quite hard to be funny about what's been happening over the last 10 days.
Honestly, Trevor, I don't blame you. I do not blame you. After all, pedophiles are known to attack children, especially in children's spaces, or associate with children's-related things. I said no, because I play Roblox and I have to constantly keep my head on a swivel when it comes to any adult players thinking that if I did use voice chat, that I would be a child. There's a reason I don't, amongst other things. Security reasons are definitely gonna be one of them. Also, when it comes to having my Roblox account banned for looking at 4chan posts for my sanity, or keeping Roblox and constantly being afraid that I might be mistaken for a child, or that I would see a child get essentially snoozed on virtually. And I'm gonna have to at least choose the VPN over Roblox because, again, 4chan posts are funny, and also try to seem like governments cannot ban VPNs. The fact that they are thinking about it, though, is actually kind of dangerous. Because if they're thinking about banning something which cannot be banned, such as Amelia memes, by the way, and there's a clear sign that they are suffering from mental illness.
Was the only one story in politics. Gordon Brown has added to it this morning with his interview and article in the national newspaper. Brown, I think, comes up with some really quite interesting proposals for reform to make sure that these kinds of things are less likely to happen. He says, by the way, that he made a mistake. I think he's being a bit harsh on himself. One of the features about this whole affair is that people make misjudgments, but sometimes we all make misjudgments because we don't know things. And I think that is at the heart of this. Who knew what when? And that leads me on to the main story, that there are two elements to this. Let's not forget that the most important element of this is criminal. Who committed crimes against women and girls? And on top of that, who knew about it and did nothing? And to me, that is the single most important element of this. Now, for a program like us, we're not a crime program. That is not principally the thing that we would be interested in. We will be addressing, if you like, the political fallout. You know, Westminster is full of people going, "I told you so," this weekend. Most irritating words in the political lexicon. By and large, most of these people didn't tell you so. Most of these people, I can tell you with certainty, 10 days ago, would have cut off their own right arms if I could, for Peter Mandelson's phone number, because they thought he was important. But now they're all deciding that he's terrible. Maurice Glassman, however, doesn't fall into that category. He did warn the Prime Minister. He's coming on tomorrow to tell us about what he said.
So yeah, he goes on to talk about this kind of situation where people are like pretending not to know just to save themselves.
It's always pretending and saying, "Oh, I didn't know he did that." And there goes my phone again. Anyway. But it's always fun. Well, I didn't know Peter Mandelston was with a guy called Jeffrey the Giraffe who snooze children. No. But let me tell you right away. I had a gut feeling that they knew. Okay? They knew, and they damn well knew that their lies are gonna give them jack shit. And turns out my gut feeling on this was right all along. See, being a now retired fall hunter from my very young days of starting off age 10, I can understand a thing or two about the weirdness and adulterated stuff and fully comprehend it with having enough time to think on it. Like I said, I was very in the weeds of some of this stuff. Anyway.
To be frank, I have absolutely no time for people who I know a week ago would have given up their right arms just to be in the same room as Peter Mandelson, and are now suddenly discovering that he is a spawn of Satan. They always knew he was a wrong one. They always suspected he was dodgy. They never understood why anybody paid any attention to him. I think, those are people I don't want to spend much time with. I think if you choose somebody to be your friend, you're taking all of their weaknesses, and those of us who were and are Peter's friends know about his weaknesses. I didn't have any idea the depths of the relationship with Epstein or what he did in relation to that. But as I said on the program last week, that his behavior at the best was naive and foolish, at the worst was greedy and duplicitous, and I think we're pretty clear what end of the spectrum that is now.
And he's on about people like Wes Streeting, who came out quickly straight after. This guy licked Peter Mandelson's ass, metaphorically, every single time.
Honestly, with a face like his, and then Stammer-esque haircut, I think he did it literally. I'm not gonna go any further on it, Comment.
I'm talking about him. But this was his response the day after the situation erupted.
I think all of us who thought we knew Peter Mandelson regret ever having known him. I think I cannot emphasise enough how angry and bitterly betrayed people, not just in the government, but across the Labour Party feel, because it's a betrayal of values.
But you stood by him, you sort of defended him last year when we already knew that he had a close friendship with Epstein. Do you now regret that?
Well, when Peter Mandelson was appointed as US ambassador, it was on the basis that he'd served successfully as this country's business secretary, that he had served as an EU trade commissioner. People thought he'd done those roles successfully. He'd been prominent in the media as a broadcaster, writing in newspapers. You're right, there had been some scrutiny of the Epstein relationship in the media, but he was continued to be given that platform and respectability. And further to that, during the vetting process for the appointment of the US ambassador, of course, he was asked about this, and this was looked at. The reason the Prime Minister fired him is because the assurances the Prime Minister was given in that respect turned out to be false assurances. So the Prime Minister sacked him without hesitation. And now we know that as well as betraying Keir Starmer and Keir Starmer's trust as Prime Minister, we now learn that Peter Mandelson betrayed Gordon Brown. And Gordon Brown's trust as Prime Minister too.
You were supportive of him becoming US ambassador. Are you confident that there won't be any embarrassing details or documents that emerge as we learn more about that vetting process, about you?
Oh, shit! Don't laugh, I was having KFC. I mean, sure, it's the bonus banquet or bonus bucket, whatever, I can't remember, but still, it still hurts trying to laugh with chicken in your mouth. But, goddamn! I will celebrate the day this creep gets ratted on.
Well, I wasn't involved in the vetting process. There was a vetting process, and
I guess it is also the vetting process. It was a vetting process. I call bullshit, and I cast Festus mockery. Nat Trenny, let's go.
Prime Minister is opting for transparency to reassure people about that process. There are obvious exceptions in terms of any information that might compromise our national security or international relationships. I think people will understand those reasonable exceptions. But beyond that, the Prime Minister is opting for maximum transparency because the Prime Minister has every right to feel angry for the way that Peter Mandelson has let him and the rest of us down. The Prime Minister was given false assurances upon Peter Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador. And the Prime Minister is absolutely determined to strip Peter Mandelson of all of his titles and status that were given to him because of public service, because we now know that...
Yeah, well, the public civilization is in the native civilization of UK Brits and actually decent Muslims in our community, which Islamists are neither decent nor Muslim as far as I'm concerned. We'll do whatever we can to strip Starmer and the Labour Party of being a political group at this point, because clearly, for far too long, we've allowed mentally ill cowards and pedophiles running countries. And also, the Prime Minister of Spain getting upset about what he considers hate speech and hurting words leads me to believe that he too is also hiding something. Just putting that out there.
An awful lot that was going on was self-service and self-interest, not public service in the national interest.
To add here, they change their tune as soon as they think that they're going to get exposed. And that's where Trevor was going here. He's calling out these establishment members for, you know, their tune, literally a few weeks ago, months ago, to now, when the reality is we already knew this guy 18 months prior to his appointment as the US ambassador. He stayed in Epstein's flat while Epstein was in prison, being charged or serving a sentence for child prostitution, essentially. So we knew he was a wrong 'un. Everybody knew he was a wrong 'un. And go back to my old videos speaking about Peter Mandelson, and I would have told you that. And I'm a nobody, guys. I'm just public, the Joe Public. So these guys pick and choose what they want every time, and now it's all about saving their own face and their own skin. But good to see Trevor Phillips actually calling this out. And remember, Sky News, BBC News, are an arm of the establishment. So, Trevor will need to be careful. Otherwise, they may not see him. He might get cancelled.
Well, Trevor's always allowed to collab with me. And I don't care what the far left or the far right on either side have to say. At least I want decent dialogue. Something we're not getting with certain politicians. Anyways, that is the latest video from British Stand. Go check them out if you are watching this from YouTube. Well, don't worry. I will leave the @link for the channel in the description. Anyways, I think we're done here for now. But until then, I'll be procrastinating again until the next stream, which obviously is going to be me playing more Outcome Memories. Thankfully, the game didn't get solved or destroyed, so we can still play Outcome Memories. Also, they've added Shadow to the game. For private servers, I think. Or at time of recording, you might be in public servers. Either way, I'll be checking it out, and potentially Fractured Genesis when that Asian game comes out as well. But again, until then, this is Fortnite signing out. Peace!